Former President Donald Trump's legal battles today in New York City. And just now, a New York appeals court has agreed to slash the amount of the bond that Donald Trump must post to cover a $454 million civil fraud verdict while he appeals it. So we're going to go from 454 to 175 million. Just 175 million now will be the portion. I say just, it's still a ton of cash, but it's a big amount of money that he won't have to put up in bond after that real estate mogul claimed he would have to sell properties at a loss to raise the cash. We just saw Donald Trump outside the courtroom not a short time ago for his hearing on that hush money case, and they're in a break right now. So we're waiting to see if he's going to walk up and talk again. You can almost bet his bottom dollar, because he just got some of his bottom dollar excused. And so that's going to be interesting. So the big idea here was that you had until midnight, the deadline, for him to begin to pay the money. And if he couldn't come up with the 454, 464 in some estimations, plus growing interest by the day, if he couldn't come up with that in assets and cash, then the very power-hungry, far-left District Attorney Letitia James was promising to seize his assets. And his name's on quite a few things here, particularly on the beautiful west side of New York City facing the Hudson River. Would love to take down the Trump gold letters off one of those big buildings. And she literally said she wants to get Trump. Remember, she campaigned on what's happening right now. About an hour or so ago, the former president called it a witch hunt and a hoax. And now, and maybe what experts would have called not surprising, I haven't heard anybody predict this sort of thing yet, but in an unexpected, we'll call it that, move by this judge, the amount has been reduced to 175 million. And then he can appeal his decision. Kerri Kupec Urbahn, as we said, Fox News legal editor and former counselor to Attorney General Bill Barr, would come back as the news warrants, and it does. Kerri, your reaction?
Harris, this is exactly the point I just made, 15 minutes ago? That the court should be concerned about the appearance of fairness, and this bond on its face was not fair. So the court has done the right thing in reducing it. Now, I'm sure the former president may not like how much it's been reduced, or maybe he thinks it should be more, but at least they took the right step here in reducing it because it's consistent with how courts normally operate. And it gives me a little bit of hope in the New York appellate system that they're going to take a look at this through fresh eyes and consider it fairly, as they should have been doing all along.
And I do want to point out to everybody, this is the hush money court where he is right now. And, again, moments ago, there he is on the right. They're in a little bit of a break. Okay, so moments ago, so he did not stop at that point, but we do know they're on a break. So if he comes back out and speaks, there's a bevy of microphones right there, Kerri, and we'll be right there for it. This amount, though, is a big amount.
It's still a lot of money, yes.
And the 175 million, he's still going to have to tap into certain things. However, this gives him some breathing room. But really what it does is it points out how unfair things were up until the pressure became, whatever it became today, for the judge to wake up and say, yeah, we got to do it the right way. That helps Trump. It always has. It helps him raise, popularity even a little bit outside of his base now. I mean, we need to start talking to more independents about this issue of conviction. We knew where they were 8 months ago. Where are they on what he calls a witch hunt?
Right. And let's be clear. It's not like this case has suddenly become fair. This is a step in the right direction. It is. But as we know, Harris, the law has never been applied against anyone in New York State in this way. Right. And two, even the New York Times tweeted out, I believe it was yesterday or today, how valuing assets can be a tricky business. And the reason they said that was because, there's been a lot of discussion about, if he sells this and he sells that, how much money will he get? And they say, it's tricky. And I saw this and I thought, exactly, that's the whole point. This entire case has been entirely subjective. And the New York court system, and specifically Attorney General James, has used that and abused it against Donald Trump in a way that's never been done before.
RICO. When I hear that word, I think of drug cartels and mobsters. I don't
As
think
you
I'm wrong about that. I mean, in terms of where we see it used. And so is this that much about politics that even that sort of lingo gets thrown in here because it's salacious?
I mean, you are right in that it is normally invoked and used in cases involving MS-13 and the mob, and you're talking about the Georgia Willis case. And, you know, one thing that people thought was that if Willis had been removed from the case, that another prosecutor could take a look at this and say, Rico, come on, you know, this is ridiculous. We're going to drop those charges. Now that she's still on it, I would, you know, this is going to go forward. But yes, you know, the use of laws in novel ways against Donald Trump has been a repeated pattern that we have seen for the last year. And I make this point all the time. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, this should concern every American, because if it can be used against Donald Trump, it can be used against anyone in this way. And once the toothpaste is out of the tube, political enemies will start using the justice system and continue to against each other in a real weaponizing way that undermines democracy.
Yeah, and I appreciate you breaking that down. I mean, we are seeing now, we're in unprecedented territory anyway, because this involves a former president, but also we have some rather thirsty district attorneys on the far left, two women who have, you know, campaigned using threats against Donald Trump. And we ran some of that with Letitia James, you know, the joke about getting into court and, I mean, just kind of the girlfriending she was doing among some of the potential voters. We think that's who those young people were. But when you look at just the whole scope of what this really means, this actually might be election interference. I mean, you're the attorney. When you start to have people who will press against a candidate and run with their name in their mouths, that's got to taint some voters. No one wants to speak up about that?
It's certainly understandable why people are beginning to view it that way, especially with what's at stake in November. And Harris, just going back to the valuation aspect in this fraud case for a minute, you know, because I'm not sure that people quite understand the ins and outs, because it's confusing, real estate and how this works. But think about it for a second. If I went online right now and I wanted to buy a pair of glittery ruby red slippers on Amazon, I could get them for maybe $30 or $40. But if I wanted to get the ones owned by Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, they're, I believe, currently valued at about $4 or $5 million. That is, to me, a perfect picture of how subjective valuation is of assets. How much is someone willing to pay for something? And it typically depends on who or what that thing belongs to.
Interesting point.
And that's why this case has been so tricky, I think, from the get-go. And the fact that the New York Attorney General brought this case in this way obviously very much undervalued his assets. Now, some people say he overvalued. People just need to understand how all of this has largely been resting on subjectivity.
Well, the valuation is a very valuable way of putting things the way you did. I mean, would you just want a building in New York, or would you want part of the portfolio of a man who's known for having successful buildings all over the world, i.e. Donald Trump?
Exactly.
I hadn't heard anybody put it that way, but that's very interesting. Kerri, again, as things break, we'll bring you back. Please stay with us.